Hey guys, and welcome to the Invar Technologies Podcast, a podcast where we interview top-level executives inside leading and growing companies in the food and beverage space. We're excited to have our guest today, Taylor Kane. We'll be diving into his story, a little bit about what his company does, and some engaging insights into the industry. So make sure to stick around and watch all the way to the end. We'll go ahead and just kick it off to you, Taylor. If you could just introduce yourself, tell a quick snippet of your story and your background, prior to working at International Food Products Corporation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me today. It's good to be here.
Of course.
Yeah. So, I've been working in, IT for a couple of decades now, and, I kind of accidentally fell into the manufacturing and distribution space, and I've been in it ever since, and kind of specialized in bringing information systems, better systems to the manufacturing and distribution industries. Last couple years, more recently, I've been working at a company actually in St. Louis called Diagraph. They're part of International Tool Works Corporation. They're kind of a big manufacturing conglomerate. But we did different kind of manufacturing there. We did industrial inkjet manufacturing. And so it was a little bit of a shift. Before that job, actually, I've been working in the, I would say, the remanufacturing automotive space. So definitely a lot of, I would say, diverse manufacturing companies that I had been working for. And so coming to the international companies and IFPC was another shift because this particular company does a lot of food ingredient manufacturing and a lot of food ingredient distribution. And that's just kind of a whole separate, set of needs and requirements that are involved in that. But still a lot of principles translated in terms of understanding the difference between discrete and process manufacturing, systems like MRP and ERP systems. Still very much applicable no matter where you are in the manufacturing space. So yeah, that's kind of more recently. I'd say about a year ago now. I had my 1-year anniversary, March 1st. I moved to the international companies, and it's been great ever since.
It's awesome, man. Yeah, I love to hear the extensive experience you obviously had in manufacturing, kind of how you jumped around and basically kind of. I feel like a lot of times when I'm talking to people inside the industry, what I'm realizing is that they didn't go out looking for the industry, but the industry found them, right? It's almost like it found you, and you kind of were able to, find the love in it, right? And be able to be passionate about it. And I wanted to ask you, in terms of all the manufacturing that you've worked across, is there a lot of differences? Would you say that they're like super different between each, subcategory of manufacturing, or are they relatively the same in the way, IT and operations play in that role?
Yeah, that's a great question. I could spend all day just talking about that that one question. Yeah, I mean it's hugely different. My first manufacturer was Springfield Remanufacturing Company. They're remanufacturing, so it's a little different. They actually take a product that already exists, they break it back down, reverse engineer it, and then remanufacture it from the ground up. And that had a whole separate, set of needs and requirements and things like core tracking that a lot of other manufacturers don't really need to process. And moving into Diagraph, that was really more or less technology manufacturing. So we had these advanced inkjet printers that would basically sit on the production lines of other manufacturers and distributors, and they would print barcodes and expiration dates on milk cartons, right? So our printers would do this, but that was a whole separate set of requirements there too, because we're creating machinery essentially that goes on production lines that has to be up 100% of the time. You really just one of those when you're in industrial manufacturing, it's it's not even an option, right? To just have lots of downtime. Your systems have to be up, or your whole production is halted. right? And so that was very strict requirements, and a lot of I would say supply chain related production, purchasing planning that had to go into that because we had 1,500 pieces that would all have to come together, right? We order 90% of it manufactured, maybe 10% in house. They all have to come together at the right time to produce these machines. And so timing was critical, supply chain was critical, and so there was just kind of a whole different set of needs from an industrial manufacturing perspective. And then moving into IFPC, now the international companies, also totally different. Net we're less discrete manufacturing, we're more process manufacturing. So we're kind of like creating the same thing over and over and over again. We'll manufacture millions of pounds of eggnog mixture, and it's the same product over and over and over again. And we don't have 1,500 different pieces that have to come. It's just only a handful of ingredients. But you're doing it over and over again, and you have FDA requirements, and you have all kinds of regulatory needs. You have allergen information that you have to keep track of, and so that adds a whole other layer of quality complexity to the manufacturing piece that again I had not experienced in my previous roles. So yeah, to answer your question, it's been very eye-opening to experience the different types of manufacturing environments, and also keeping in mind that one of the challenges that manufacturers have is you're often dealing with fairly low margins, right? This isn't like other industries. We've got these big healthy margins, and people are your primary cost, and like for us it's it's slim margins. We're dealing in bulk and high volume, um, and we have to get things right, and we also don't have we don't have a huge IT budget. I believe Gartner, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Gartner
Yeah.
research. So they put out IT spend by industry. It's one of the charts they put out. And of course, manufacturing is second to the bottom in terms of how much we spend on IT, right, on information technology. And so that brings a whole set of challenges, like how do you do more with less, and how do you improve efficiency and stay compliant while at the same time working with a fairly limited budget.
Now, yeah, no, 100%. Do you think it's more? I'm curious to get your perspective. Do you think that reason is because the mindset in the industry, or do you think it's based upon, or like the mindset and culture, or do you think it's really based upon just the margins?
It's a great question. I would say it's probably a little mixture of both.
A little both.
For sure, yeah. I think the margins kind of is a natural inhibitor. Kind of keeps it really makes sure that the businesses are focusing on what it takes operationally to execute, right? And for a business to execute, you got raw goods coming in, finished goods going out, right? And so manufacturers are very focused on just that aspect, and not so much the other areas of the business, at least not as much as other industries like insurance, or if you're in the blue chip, or you're in the tech world, you're going to have a totally different perspective on the purpose and use of IT. But to further elaborate on your question, it's certainly been something that a challenge that I've had in my career, because I'm stepping into roles where IT has been traditionally the guys who keep the servers on. It's KTLO, keep the lights on, right? And very much focused on just the bare minimum making sure that the batteries and the mouse, and the mice have are in there, and the people can get to their email. And so I've been stepping into these roles from an early point in my career. I've been stepping in these roles with really a very progressive mentality for IT, which is that IT is can be so much more than, I would say, the old school traditional IT. We're not just the guys who feed us hot pockets under the door, and we'll take care of the servers. We can and should be people who not only take care of the systems, but actually help drive business initiatives. And so we're looking at the business, and we're saying, not only how can we not only get out of the way, but then how can we actually help you to achieve what it is you're trying to achieve. And technology, as you know, are just applications and different tech is they're tools on a tool belt, right? And you send your people out there to build a house. They can certainly have a hammer and some nails and get it built, but it would be a lot faster if they had a nail gun, right? That was portable, and they could just accomplish the same task in a fraction of the time. And so I try to use that analogy when I'm working with my people. Let us find better tools to help you do your job, and I try to do that as democratically as possible. So I want to engage all the right people and get all the right parties involved, so that it's a collaboration with IT and the business to come up with better solutions. So for sure, I've had to fight for every dollar that I've spent on IT in my career, and it's still kind of humorous. Sometimes I will talk to my colleagues in other industries, and they're dealing with, like, what do I do with all this money? kind of like, yeah, I'm trying to hire 4 more people, and they're always these, I would say, more high class problems, and I'm like, yeah, that's almost foreign to me, because I'm trying to, like, let's make sure we have the foundations built correctly, and really fighting with the business to sell the value, right, of IT. And I think I've done a pretty good job in that in my career. I think that's kind of where why I'm here. I think I've done a good job of creating convincing business cases. Because at the end of the day, you can be fantastic. You can have all the IT knowledge in the world. You can do everything, but if you can't sell IT, if you can't sell the solution, then you're not gonna get very far. So I, it's almost like being in an industry, being in an industry that it is so, I would say, tight financially, has forced me to get very good at creating compelling business cases that really, lay out how we're going to get ROI, and how this piece of technology or something is going to benefit the business, and why it's not going to be just another failed project, right, from IT, which is definitely another roadblock I've run into. Is in the past, IT hasn't been that business focused, and so they have tried to put out systems and software that the company wasn't ready for, and they were more or less failed projects. So that's another hurdle that I've had to kind of overcome. And but yeah, it's honestly, it's been very it's very good for me in my career to kind of have had my feet always held to the fire, so to speak, and it's kept me on my toes, and it's taught me how to work with corporate finance and work very closely with accounting and finance, to make sure that they know that I'm looking out for the best interest of the business, and that the company's finances are important to me. If I bring something to them, I want to have a relationship with them that they to the point where they know that it's something that we actually need, right?
Definitely.
So,
And I think you bring up so many great points. I'm nodding as you're talking because I'm like, that's exactly the way to think about IT and technology within an organization, is always tying it back to, first of all, that ROI, and making it a business case for the CEOs, for the people who are, for the operational executives, right? Like, who are trying to push the business forward, streamline operations, and in manufacturing cases, increasing throughput. How can this technology help you with increasing your profitability, right? At the end of the day, how can you tie that in? I think that's a phenomenal point that you bring up, and I think more IT executives have to have that frame of mind when they are thinking about technology, when they are thinking about IT, because it's not just help desk, right? IT is
right.
it's beyond. It's more than that. It goes beyond that, right? And so, to your point, it's evolving now. And technology is evolving so much to the point where you need an executive like yourself who's willing to start to be able to say, hey, we can be ahead of our competition if we start implementing this technology or this. We're going to be able to streamline, all of the workers, jobs if we do this, if we implement this type of technology, right? So it's definitely having that forward thinking is what's needed to really drive the business forward at the end of the day, and really start to outpace your competitors as well in a competitive landscape, as manufacturing is. You're probably very aware of that.
Absolutely.
But I did want to ask you a follow up, because I know you're talking a little bit about, International Food Products Corporation and kind of what you guys are doing. But where do you see as, some of the unique value that some of maybe your products bring to your consumers? What are you guys doing a little different, would you say?
Well, I know this it's sometimes it's cliche to say this, but we truly do have a very customer focused way of doing business. So we want to be easy, and we go out of our way to be very easy to work with. And I think our customers appreciate that, because there's a lot of businesses that don't put that same kind of effort in as we do, and I think it really shows. So yeah, I think that's an area that we do actually add value. I think the other area is the diversity of our portfolio, like our product offerings, as well as the other businesses that are part of the international companies. So the biggest company in the international companies is IFPC, International Food Products Corporation. And this is if you go to ifpc.com, you'll see all about this. But basically, we do a lot of food ingredient, both manufacturing and distribution. So if you're a major food supplier, if you're a major food company, we can help obviously supply some of those key ingredients to you, whether they're sweeteners, sugars, flours, or oils, whatever it is. So a lot of the staples we cover. As well as very specific ingredients. So you could have we have a ingredient technology group within our business, and they are lab coat scientists concocting different formulas, and helping create custom solutions for our customers. So our customers will sometimes come to us and say, hey, we need to increase the viscosity of this by 20%. Or there's so many endless requests and customizations that you can do to food, and we help actually facilitate all of that. So we do a lot of work in that area, as well as just general food ingredient manufacturing and distribution. And then we also have these other businesses. We also do some in the feed industry. So we have a product called Dairy Lac 80, and we work in the International Ingredient Corporation, IIC, works to provide dairy products to calves and different animals in the feed industry to fulfill their needs, right, as well. And we try to do a lot of byproduct reclamation in our company. So instead of maybe byproducts just going to a landfill or going to the waste or whatever, we actually create technologies to extract and better utilize food byproducts. Dairy Lac 80 is one of those byproducts. We also have Greenfield Solutions, another business that kind of specializes in, reclaiming, all kinds of different, byproducts in, chocolates and sweets and all kinds of different, uh, you know, uh, food waste that comes out of factories, which there is a surprising amount of. You wouldn't think there would be, but when they're making like a Reese's Pieces cup, for example, there's all kinds of waste and byproduct that's actually created in that. So we have workers and people in the company that will find this byproduct and actually help connect and sell it to other areas in the food industry and actually reuse it as opposed to it going to waste. So we have a very wide offering that has really anything to do with food ingredient manufacturing and recycling and repurposing and distribution. And so I think that's also another strong offering that we have for our customers. We can kind of be a one-stop shop for a lot of their needs as a food producer.
Yeah, yeah. You're the first food ingredient company that we've had on food ingredient manufacturing company on the podcast. So it's always interesting to kind of hear you know the little type, the niche within a niche, the sub niche within a niche, right? Of manufacturing that there is, and so it's definitely quite unique the way that you guys have your offerings and the suite of products that you're able to offer to your consumers and have that customer centric focus. I definitely could see the value in that, and so I think you did a really good job of kind of articulating that and explaining that because it makes a lot of sense, right? You need companies like yourselves. Food manufacturers need companies like yourself to be able to operate, to be able to do business a lot easier, right? And so definitely interesting to kind of hear from your perspective as well. I did want to ask you, I know we touched a little bit about, kind of technology and maybe some of the pitfalls inside the manufacturing industry, but I maybe wanted to see if there was anything that you wanted to add. We're a technology company over here, so we're always curious about, what are the biggest challenges in relationship to technology that you see inside the food manufacturing industry.
Yeah, that's a great question. It does feel like sometimes in manufacturing we're kind of playing catch up a little bit from an IT perspective, right? Where we're spending a lot of time getting those foundational systems like ERP and CRM and MES systems, MRP systems. That and so yeah, there is a little bit of that certainly that happens within the industry. But in terms of, I mean, there are so many areas, potential areas for improvement, and sometimes you can go to, I would say, some of the areas of manufacturing where they spend a little more in IT. Let's just give you an example. So, you know, here in the St. Louis area, we have big manufacturer, Boeing, and we've got these large. They're technically a manufacturer, right? But they obviously their margins are a little higher.
Yeah.
But they do tend to spend a lot on information technology, and so we can kind of see what I guess the big dogs, so to speak, are doing and the trends in the industry. One in particular is not only manufacturing engineering systems, MES. That's an important part. It's systems that are connecting other systems to give you more real-time information about your manufacturing and production efficiency, right? So as opposed to waiting for some red light to come on one of your systems out on the shop floor or the production floor, you know it's going to break before anyone on the floor knows it's going to break. There are predictive analytics that can be applied to log ingestion of these modern manufacturing systems, so you can actually predict, when something is going to fail, right? So what does that do? That helps you keep your production uptime at 100%. Because every minute, every hour that you have downtime just hurts your bottom line, right? It directly hurts you. So you've got to maximize uptime. So MES systems are definitely growing. IoT, so Internet of Things, obviously. So more and more of your devices out on the shop floor are connected. They're connected to the internet. They're connected to each other in a lot of ways. They're connected to these MES systems. So that's both a opportunity and also risk. You have a bunch of machines out there connected to the internet. I mean, every other day you hear about cybersecurity issues with IoT, and that's no exception. I would say other trends I'm seeing in manufacturing is a greater adoption of manufacturing digital twins. Are you familiar with digital twins? Okay. So it's essentially what it sounds like. So you've got your physical environment, your production system, and a digital twin is a virtual copy essentially of your production environment. In this case, we're talking about manufacturing digital twins, and so you can actually kind of create a virtual version of your manufacturing environment. And what that does is that it allows you to see the flow of work, right, that happens. It allows you to see, where you can improve in efficiencies, and where bottlenecks are, and more importantly, it allows you to simulate. So it allows you to simulate changes, right? So let's say, for example, you're producing, for us, chocolate milk powder or something, right? And there's a series of steps that are taken throughout this process. We can create we can create a digital twin of our production line, and we can simulate changes. So we can say, well, if we wanted to double our output every day, what would we have to actually do? What would we have to change? At first glance, you would think, well, if you want to double your output, just buy one of everything, right? That's on your line. That may not be the case because of the way that the critical path works to the production environment. You may be waiting on a particular instrument, for multiple points throughout that process, and you could actually have multiple lines on that one instrument. And so anyway, there's different ways you can kind of create and simulate your production environment. It allows you to be super flexible, allows you to test things, different changes without actually having to change anything. You just go in there and just move some stuff around, add a system or whatever you're going to add, and it will spit out everything, all the changes, all the equipment you need to buy, and your expected improvement in your output. So yeah, I'm starting to see that become more of a thing. Apparently, there are some technologies out there that are now integrating AI into the digital twin virtual environment, which is really interesting because so you can almost train the AI model to understand manufacturing systems and production systems, and then you just tell it like, hey, what would we have to do to increase throughput by 400%, and AI will be like, oh, well, you can just move this around here and it'll just do it for you. So that there's some really neat stuff out there. I'm very curious how much of that will be mainstream like 10 years from now. If we had the same conversation, would we be? Oh yeah, we're doing that right now, right? Or is it too pie in the sky? Hopefully, it is something that becomes more mainstream.
I feel like that. I mean, I think the companies that do adopt it are going to be the companies that obviously are going to, like I said earlier, gain that competitive advantage, right? Because it's going to be able to assist them with so much. And I mean, to think about where AI is going to be in the next 5 to 10 years is absolutely, it's crazy to think about for me, because I'm like, man,
Yeah.
we've already had so much evolvement in just a short period of time. All these new tools, all these new softwares coming out. I can imagine the next 5 to 10 years there's going to come out. There's going to be some crazy innovations that happen on the forefront of AI, and so I definitely. Who knows? Who knows what types of conversations we'll be having in the next 5 to 10 years, Taylor?
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
It's one of those situations too that, I mean, businesses in general, the businesses that are nimble, that are agile, right? Who can kind of, flex and change, pivot quickly, they tend to do better, right? And the companies that are too rigid and stuck in their ways
yeah,
tend to not do as well, right? And so that's where the digital twin tech and with AI, that could really facilitate your ability as a business to pivot and to make changes quickly that maybe your competitors are not going to be able to. If you ever talk to a production supervisor, production manager, and be like, ask them, what they think about changing up their production flow, and first of all, they're not going to be happy with you. But there's a lot of work that is involved, years, in many cases, of work involved to fine tune that production process. And so, because it's so much work goes into that, there's a lot of resistance to change. And so this is where, AI digital twins can come in and be like, hey, we mapped it all out, we simulated it, here's a potential change that we could make, and allows you to be way more agile in that sense.
definitely. You've obviously you've done a lot in the manufacturing space. You've done a lot in terms of being an IT leader in these companies, and I'm curious to get your perspective, and your opinion on kind of what do you think is what type of mindset is really needed to be a successful IT leader or IT director within a manufacturing company.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it really helps to have a lot of general knowledge, right? I mean, it's good to be specialized in some areas. I think that's great. If you're too specialized, I think that it's hard for you to see the whole business case, right?
Yeah.
The whole business perspective. And so, it's kind of interesting because I kind of rose the ranks, so to speak, through just like tech support, really. Help desk, and then being promoted to an IT admin, and then IT manager, right? And I have a bachelor's and a master's degree, and I chose to actually get a bachelor's degree in business management instead of IT. And my thought was, I think this will serve me well to have a focus on just general business administration, business management. And I think that's been the case. But yeah, I like to, I tell people who are in IT who want to get into leadership to try to diversify your perspective as much as possible. So, go for that. Maybe if you're going to get a master's, like, get an MBA instead of a computer science degree, right? You really want to kind of build your own business acumen, so that when the accountants are talking about net margins and NPV and ROI and whatever, you have a general understanding of what they're trying to get at, right? And how you can better help the business. Even things like risk management is starting to like fall into more and more so into the purview of IT, and we have things like GDPR and privacy and cybersecurity and AI and all these things that are kind of popping up and demanding our time and attention. But generally, I would say, yeah. So learn a decent amount about all the areas of IT, which sounds crazy, but because I mean, there's a lot. IT encompasses so much.
Yeah.
It's wild how much is involved. Um, but I wouldn't get too focused. I would try to understand the needs of the business, um, and then something I alluded to before, which is get good at producing a business case, which is really just a story. You're telling a story, right? And the story you're telling is, hey, we've noticed that there's a need for some improvement in the business, and here's how we're actually going to solve this problem, right? And you're telling a story with your business case, and I think that will help leaps and bounds in your career, and it also really helps to kind of help build legitimacy of IT to the rest of the business. That that we are here to serve the business. We understand what the business needs are, and we also understand that we're a cost center. We spend a lot of money. A lot of times it's on stuff that is less visible. And so what I tell people is, well, then make IT more visible, right? And the way you do that is to get more involved in the business. It really is that I mean, it's simple. I know it's easier said than done. Obviously, it can be hugely challenging, and sometimes there are huge cultural challenges, right? Perceptions of IT that you're trying to overcome. But I would say, find a way to make it personal to the stakeholders in your company, right? Try to make a way to make their lives easier, and don't be afraid to call out your successes. No one's going to do that for you. No one's going to be like, hey, everybody, just want to let you know that IT made my life easier this last week. I mean, is it possible? Sure. I mean, I guess that could happen.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to call it out. And so what I'll do is I will, send out IT update, newsletters, and also have a once a year I try to meet with our senior executive or executive leadership team, and I present out and say, here's what IT did this last year. Here's how much money we saved.
Yeah.
Here's all the cost
Great.
avoidance that we saved. Here's the new efficiencies and workflows that we've automated over the past 12 months. If you don't brag about yourself a little bit, no one's going to do it for you. And you have to kind of teach people in the business why you're there and why you should be considered a real value-added business partner.
Definitely. I think you bring up a lot of great points, and I hope people that are listening, that are IT leaders, are incorporating some of those things in their own business, because I think it's so important to be able to, like you said, help the people understand what you've been doing when it relates to the business as a whole, and creating that culture and the mindset to be able to adopt more of the technology, right? Because that's what I was kind of alluding to at the beginning of our conversation. Like, how much of it is that are people just stuck in their ways? They don't really maybe see the ROI of technology until you really show them, right? And so you're hitting the nail right on the head by saying, I'm trying my best to put together and show them the ROI of technology within the business, because a lot of these senior executives, they're not technical people, right? Like they don't understand the fundamentals of technology, or they're not really in the weeds like that. So they may not see the business case as everyone does. And so it's important to have a leader like yourself show them, right? And show them with data, and show them what you've done, because then it helps the buy-in, right? It helps them to be more bought into any type of new technology that you want to implement, because they've already seen the type of ROI that they've gotten beforehand. So great points. And I love that you bring that up. I think it's important for an IT leader to have that mindset, when they are thinking about the business and trying to, implement new technologies of whatever it may be. But it's been a pleasure getting a chance to know you, Taylor, and pleasure to get a chance to hear kind of what you're doing and what you guys are currently building over there. Definitely sounds like something special, man. And I'm excited to see where you guys continue to take it. I do always like to end with like, a loaded question, just to kind of get your last nugget of wisdom out of you. But if you had to, summarize the most important thing that you've learned in your career, what do you think that would be?
Oh man, geez,
Told you
that
it's
is a
a
loaded
tough
question.
one.
You save your absolute most difficult question for last.
Yep.
Geez. Most important thing I've learned in my career. I think, I'm gonna probably say that people are the most important thing. And taking care of your people. If you take care of your people, it's like cliche. I think it was Richard Branson who said that, like, take care of your people, they'll take care of your customer. But I'm very much a believer in that. In IT, our customer is everybody in the business, right? And so I very much believe in taking care of the people on my team, letting them know that I care about them, I care about their success and their future, and I want to not only get out of their way in terms of allowing them to grow, but then helping facilitate their growth, right? And encouraging it. So I would say take care of your people. That's the
I love
biggest
that.
thing.
I love that because at the end of the day, the people are the business, right? So like
Mhm.
business is just a reflection of the people inside of it, and so
Absolutely.
it's important to have that approach when it comes to whoever's under you, whoever you're leading, right? You have to have that people centric approach, and I love that you ended with that. But Taylor, if people are listening to this, they're wanting to either reach out to you. What are the best ways to kind of go ahead and get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say the first thing is, come to our website, ifpc.com. You can contact us there in lots of different ways and learn more. Also, don't be afraid to find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, it's kind of like it's become our public website, right? It's like,
Yeah,
is your
yeah.
LinkedIn page, and
So it is.
that's the same for me too. I think mine is linkedin.com/taylor.kane. So it's pretty easy to find me. Reach out to me with anything, and I'll be happy to um, you know share any knowledge I have and connect with you.
Awesome. I'll make sure to include both of those in the description. Thanks again for coming on, Taylor. Really appreciate it. And if you guys did make it all the way to the end, we do appreciate you as well. If you could just share, like, and comment for more content. We hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care. Thanks again,
Thanks a
Taylor.
lot.